พูดถึงประเทศที่มีสตาร์ทอัพเป็นศูนย์กลางแล้วก็โด่งดังเรื่องของฟินเทคเราจะนึกถึงเลยนั่นก็คือสิงคโปร์ค่ะเพราะฉะนั้นแล้วมาติดตามกันได้นะคะกับหัวข้อต่อไปนี้กับ Keynote Speed from Startup to Scale Up the Singapore Experience และสำหรับวิทยากรที่จะมาบอกเล่าประสบการณ์และก็ร่วมแชร์ให้กับทุกท่านนะคะ Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker, please join me in welcoming on the stage Mr. Alex Lin, Head of SGInnovate from Singapore.
Good afternoon, everybody. And it's very exciting to be on the stage because this is the first time, I speak this way in Thailand. Most of the time, it's all very, very small community. I come from an environment that is very much government, although I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm an entrepreneur in the government, so something must be wrong somewhere. So just a quick background is that I'm an engineer, and engineers become entrepreneurs. Again, there is also something wrong down there. So which practically a misfit, and how do we do a lot of things that I want to share with you today, a slightly different tune because that we have seen a lot of success story. I'm going to share with you what we didn't do right for the past many, many years. So we're talking about remodeling Singapore tech startup ecosystem, but very, very beginning, there's one very, very simple thing that we always ask the question of it. A startup is almost at zero. Zero, bring them to hero, is a very painful journey. So anybody who is in a startup, you know. Anybody trying to groom startup, you know that. Any VC down here that trying to invest in startup, you know that this is very, very tough. So when we start looking at this, that everybody get excited about doing startup. The big question you will ask is that why? Why bother about them? Right? I was a startup, so sometimes I also ask myself that question. That, number one, it takes me 3 to 5 years to grow to 15 employees, so I don't create a lot of jobs. It takes 5 years for me to be profitable. So when I look at the scheme, people say that give startup a tax break. Or just one thing, I'm not paying tax anyway for 5 years. I consume the same resources as SMB and MNC. So startup practically is not very productive. And why are we even focused the time and effort on grooming them? This is something that's very interesting, right? So as a government, sometimes you look at it and say, hey, am I wasting a lot of resources? But frankly, a lot of things hidden behind is that sometimes I look at KMUTT just now that he has a tech park. In fact, he has an advantage. So a lot of countries will build tech park. So we are wonderful. We build a lot of them. So building a tech park never have a problem. Everybody know how to do that. But the headache comes after you build it. What is that? That is that how are you going to fill it up? How are you going to fill it up with sufficient people, tenants, collect rent, and make sure that the place is vibrant? And you know that a lot of countries build a lot of tech parks and they are empty all over the place. So that is a big problem. And when you have that big problem, you have to figure out how to bring the people in. And there's a very simple standard way is that you figure out what do they want and then you bring them in. So what does a tenant want? The tenant want basically very simple thing. Number one, he want people, he want resources. But one other thing always stand out. He want competitive advantage. But when you say competitive advantage, what exactly is that? It's a very simple, we call it MBA terms. You can just throw it out. People say, oh, yeah, what that is. But what exactly is that? That is something that's very interesting. It's actually what we call the innovation. So innovation, I was just going to quickly share with you a very interesting journey that Coca-Cola has went through. Coca-Cola has went through the very first generation of innovation where they have entrepreneurs, trying to set up their own in-house improvement team. So they have something called entrepreneurs team. Entrepreneur team allow them to try to experiment and everything. But what happened is that they fail. Why is that so? Because in a company, every month, every quarter, I'm supposed to achieve something. But this guy coming and disturb me, why should I even allow him to be alive? Kill. And Coca-Cola realized that what he did is that he changed. He changed to create a Coca-Cola accelerator. He bring in entrepreneur in residence, people who come in to do something about it. And there's some success, but most of them, the guys just say, forget about it. Inside is so bureaucratic, they left. After they left, they built outside. They built outside, it was pretty good. They come back, ask for resources, Coca-Cola give them. And Coca-Cola eventually realized that you want innovation, innovation can never happen in the company. So they built the third one, which is Coca-Cola Founder, which is they just closed down, they changed the program a little bit. Now they call it Coca-Cola Bridge. What they did is that they funded founders to the tune about $1 million each. 26 of them, 17 of them survived. And the money is very interesting because they give them as a convertible note. Convertible note in a VC term is that basically I lend you money. I don't control you. It just lend you money. If you are successful, I convert it into share. If you fail, sorry, I lose my money. During this period of time when you are experimenting, I got no control over it. So they are daring to do that. And it was very successful. So we realized that. And you say, okay, there's some example. I'll just give you two very quick examples. IBM Watson. IBM Watson, okay, want to do something about it. And what they did is that they came to Singapore and around the world. They say, I need to have some innovation. Of course, the traditional government way is that, please come in, I give you tax break, I subsidize your manpower. But we did it slightly differently. So we told them, we said, okay, you want innovation? Can I bring 12 startups? Set up an accelerator, work through it. The accelerator groomed the startup to work on IBM Watson platform. No money involved. 12 companies successfully built product on top of IBM, and IBM realized that this is the fastest way to get his ecosystem and vendor ready. He set up his innovation center right at my office across the road, across the block. No money is needed. He built it himself. The second one is Unilever. It's the same thing. Unilever want to do innovation. So we bring in 67 startups, match with them. Unilever spend time each half an hour and figure it out. 32, they begin to work with. 12 of them, Unilever invested in them. And Unilever set up an innovation center across the road, bought the building, and now it houses about 300 over people, innovators out there. Now we look at this and say, hey, no, this is what we are doing. We have created a way to bring the large company in by having a startup working with them. So conceptually, it's basically building a massive amount of innovative startup, and the startups are working with the corporation. And immediately, they will create an ecosystem. The ecosystem grow on its own, and eventually, the large company will, the small company become large company, the cycle continue. So when you start looking at this one, you said, put it very steadily, I groom startup. I groom startup for corporate to swallow. I creating fish food for large fish. But as the fish grow big after being swallowed, it didn't die. It went into large corporate, it built again and bigger and bigger and bigger. And when it's bigger, you start eating other one. And that is how the ecosystem is being built, how this ecosystem is being created. But very importantly is that it creates a lot of very interesting and useful jobs. So when we start looking at this, we start thinking that what is a very important question? Innovation. Because everybody talk about innovation. Have anybody ever thought that what is the definition of innovation? So the very first thing we look at innovation is that an innovator is a person who has less tolerance of structure, which also means that anybody in government can forget about it. Any regulator can forget about it because they need to follow structure. In fact, they want you to follow structure. So government cannot be innovator and try not to be, because they set rules. When the government tries to break its own rule, they can break it and it create a lot of chaos. So that's what we did. We bring in a whole bunch of entrepreneurs within the government framework to do that. I'm an organization where I have run the fund. From the fund, I generate profit, the profit plow in the ecosystem. So we run totally commercially. And the next one is that we ask innovator, innovation and market is related because innovation is about enhancing the customer. Now, customer is the most important thing because customer is the one that pay. And a lot of time, everybody got confused that the one that use your product is your customer. No, it is not. The one that pay, right? So ultimately, it's about innovation. Is one of the very important definitions. It's about transforming the knowledge into money. Jeff Nicholson is we call him father of post-it notepad. This is what he gives the definition. Transformation of knowledge into money. So if anything that don't transform into something that people desire, willing to pay for it, it is not innovation. That's our definition. Okay? It could be a bit narrow, but at least it focuses all of us. Then we start looking at one of the very important things is that in order for us to do that, we want a lot of startup and innovation. So we failed a few times. I'm just going to show you one of the very spectacular one. Because we have some assumption. The assumption is that if I'm able to bring a lot of startup into Singapore, I would have a startup ecosystem. Vibrant, right? Transparent. Just like gardening. You don't have flower, you bring the flower groom, and eventually they're okay. But we fail. Why? I bring in, we over the 5 years, we bring in 152 companies, which is quite a good job. 65% of them from Valley, 73% remain in Singapore. This is a very difficult job because to bring them in, keep them in Singapore is very difficult. Only 5% of them need money because they are venture back, so there's no issue with them. But the problem you face is that only 2 of them create spin-off, which means that there's no offspring, there's no new startup. I constantly need to transplant. And this is a very costly affair. Every year I spend about $5 million just to do that. And you realize that this is not the right way to do. Yes, it creates a very good GDP, it creates a good job, but it is not self-sustaining. So we begin to figure out that this transplant are all just multinational company. They got good job, but they sold. So we wonder is that where are our entrepreneurs? So we went to do a survey, and we checked. If I ask you to do the survey down here, with all your students, you'll get more or less the same result. 81.4% of students say, I want to start up. This is nothing surprising. But if you start checking the number, a few years down the road, only 1.2% of them started up. Now you will ask a question, number one is that, is the survey done wrongly? Or, the second question is that, are the students all lying? Right, I mean, they don't know what they're talking about, okay? As adults, we always say the students don't know what they are talking about. Then this is true. They say they want to start, but they never start. But we realize that the study is usually done by economists, and economists have one problem because they don't know people's mind. They only look at the number. So whatever they have is all about what is the fact in front. And when you look at the fact, this is what we call lagging indicator. I fail an exam, and economists say, yes, you fail an exam. What can I do? Nothing. But we need something that is leading. Before that, somebody can tell me that I am about to fail. Then I can do something about it. There's no point telling me I failed. So we say, I need to do something about it by asking where are my entrepreneurs so I can groom them. So what did I do? Okay, we did a 5-year longitudinal attitude survey for students and people and around the world. 5 years. But we continue doing it. This is over 7 years already. And what did we find out? Is that large majority of people are categorized as professional. Professional people are very good in solving problems. This is what the education system teach them. Give them a problem, they solve. The other group of them are leader manager. They are able to assemble things and work. And those that are good in mathematics, you know that you're left with only 8%. So this was a shock, 8%. We went to London, the number is 9%. When we went to Valley, it's 11%. So, oh, wait a minute, there isn't enough entrepreneurs. That's it, we are dead. But only after a while we realized that one entrepreneur created a company that has about 10 jobs. The ratio worked out to more or less correct. Not too bad. Now, the one that will kill you is for the entrepreneurs and those startup among you entrepreneurs, the more you start up, the more you like it. The more you've gone through training, the more you enjoy it. You want to start the next one. And all your friends will tell you you are crazy. Because your friend, majority of them, belongs to the other group. The more they experience startup, the more they experience startup activity, they hate it. which also means that if you are a university, if you are incubator, if you are government trying to groom entrepreneurs, and you are grooming the professional, your average attitude go down after you train them, because you don't know who is who. So we realized that, so now we are very selective, focused only on entrepreneurs and the leader manager. So we know that the population that within the university is only very few, and it tells you the actual number. And so we created a website. The website is a test. For those interested, it's actually called survey.glints.com. You can test yourself. And the result is what you will see. In fact, we'll make it become a name card. You know whether you are entrepreneur, whether you have motivation, you want to be one, and whether you can efficacy, and whether you have intent or not. And obviously, this guy is entrepreneur. He's not interested to become leader, although he can be. He's not a professional. He don't like to be professional, although he can be. And the other factor we're looking at very, very carefully is the grit factor. If he is very gritty, above 4, you know that he's very resilient and he will work very hard. So by doing this one, all of a sudden we realize that, hey, I can select the people and I can train them. Very, very focused on doing it. But we know that if we don't do anything, we have a problem. But the most important thing is that we need to do, with a small country, we have to zoom in and be very, very focused on it. So the question is, focus on where? There's 2 questions we need to ask. What kind of startup are we supposed to groom? And how can I do it very, very fast? So we look at what kind of startup. So we compare the kind of company that we have in Singapore. I'll just give you a very quick example. Number 1, Hisaka and Highwind are both the same type of company. They do industrial automation. They build stuff, give it to a factory, everything, conveyor belt, system, everything. They started almost the same time. But 7 years down the road, Hisaka, being a system integrator, he buys stuff, he assembles stuff. It's a very stable company because if one guy fails, he just changed the source. What happened is that it is having a 40 million revenue, 30 million valuation. Now, when you look at it, that revenue higher than valuation, which also means that his profitability is very low. Because being a system integrator, you have very, very high cost of goods. You don't have a lot of money to pay your employee. But for Highwind, he worked with the university. It's a Taiwan company. When he worked with Taiwan University, what he did is that he built his own product. When he built his own product, his own IP, his cost of goods reduced, he have a lot more money to pay his employee. Good margin. Highwind, 400 million in terms of this revenue, 2.5 billion valuation. And Hisaka eventually cannot compete, become a property company. That is what we see, that system integrator do have a problem. We need to build a lot more innovation-driven company, product company. And so when we look at it, we're not just looking at just 1, 2 companies. We look at the whole landscape. We realize Singapore do have a lot of system integrator, and they are clustering around at the bottom left of the chart. So Singapore being a very small country, we look at the left axis of productivity. Productivity basically how much profit you make over the number of employees. I can't grow the number of employees because I have a limitation in terms of people. Unlike those blue color, those in the US, they can grow more. I can claim that I'm better because my slope is more steep and this one's slope is less, but I'm restricted. And I definitely cannot compare with 2 of these. One is Google and the other one is Facebook. Because they are a company we call scalable. Scale company basically means that when you increase your revenue to a certain point, your cost is tapering off. Your cost does not increase as much as your revenue increase. And that is a kind of a new company, new job that is needed to be created. So we realize that there's a problem. Everybody crowd around out here. We need to change that. And so we say that, what is the situation? When we start looking at that, on top of the 3 I mentioned, now we have one problem, is that 50% fail within the first 5 years. Damn high failure rate. 97% of Infocom company fail within the first 3 years. We all know that. So we start looking at, there must be something wrong. So we study our company. The very first thing we realize that those companies that fail, why they fail? 67% combine these two, okay, fail because they say unable to sell, run out of cash. These two basically means that what they produce, nobody want. Now, for all the VCs out here, you all know that. That is true. The only difference is that now I have a number. Now I have a physical number. And in a lot of time, you look at it, is that product market is a problem. And globally, more than 50% is that no market need. There's another stat, okay? 42% no market need, run out of cash. So everybody know, but why are we still doing the same thing? Why are we building product and go to the market? So when we start examining that, we look at it that something is broken, something is terribly bad, they're broken. So what is it, the original model that we look at? This is what everybody know, everybody agree. I build a product, and then I bring it to the market for acceleration. So I incubate, and then I accelerate. Statistic, our number, incubation is between 2 and 8% success rate. 2% you do it yourself, 8% when you have a mentor. And acceleration, 11%. Combined, you have less than 1% success rate, which tally with the actual fact. So imagine that 100 companies, there's only one company succeed. That is still okay. But every year, if I pump in 3 to 4 billion Singapore dollar, I only have 1% coming out. That is terrible. So we ask ourselves the question is that, can we look at the market first? Then I build the product. Since I got so much money, I got all the knowledge, I got all the university, I can make something. So what we did is that we swapped the two. We went around the world, look for accelerator, invest in them, come to Singapore, let's groom together. And accelerator basically is 3 months doing 3 things. Number 1, validate a business model with customer. That means that it's not here, it's out there. Everybody go out and talk to their customer. If the customer don't want you, I kill you. You fail the acceleration, you restart, do something else. It's very brutal. And I build a minimum viable product because you say the customer want it, but you cannot build it, forget about it, you fail too. But when you have a customer validation and you will have a minimum viable product, it is very easy for you to raise money. And 62 to 87% of them raise follow-on funding. And the next thing is that you go into incubation, you continue, build your team, build your business, you complete your product, you have a customer traction, you have about 70% success. Why the 30% fail? The 30% fail because the team cannot work together, which is the reason why when we do the test, we added the team element out there. So now we know that the success rate went up to about 43% because you take 70% multiplied by 62%, you get about 43%. That's not too bad. So the example that we have is that, but the question is that we do not know how many we need to groom to change the whole ecosystem. So we study other places. A few cities we study, notice that the ecosystem activity only change when you are having about 132 to 148 Series A company. You say, wait a minute, exactly why it happened, we do not know. But I don't think I care. Because if I were to groom 150 company to Series A, I would have changed my ecosystem. It would be more vibrant, people will be coming, everything will change. So we say, okay, let's set a target of 200. Build 200 Series A IDE startup within 5 years, and so before our method change, I would have to groom 20,000. In Singapore, not possible. In Thailand, maybe. In China, possible. But Singapore never able to do it. But my percentage changed to 43%. Now I only need to do 500. Not too bad. I can do it. Divided by 5 years, every year is 100. One accelerator to 210. I only need 10 accelerator. So yes, doable. So that is what happened. And I'm just going to speed it through. What happened is that over the last 2 years, previous 2 years, okay, we groomed ourselves 217, but only 8 of them reached Series A. But working with the ecosystem, it changed a lot, the corporation, 163, 19 of them, and working ecosystem, everybody, we have 98. So we got 125 of them, the ecosystem began to change. Building an ecosystem, leverage everybody. So that is the history of it. And when we do it, so Singapore ranking was previously on the 17th, which is below. You can say that we are the world top 20 among the world top 20, or you can say that we are the bottom 4 among the top. And we change. We move up 17 rank in 1.5 years. The only problem is that when you go so fast, you break something. What did we break? For those of people who are eye a little bit sharper, you can read down there and say talent. Everybody start hiring. Startup want to hire, corporate want to hire. Do I have enough people? The answer is no. So we rank the bottom, 20th rank for talents. 1.5 years, we work on it. How do we work on it? We noticed that there's a lot of people have, a lot of companies have opening job, but there isn't people qualified for it. So we begin to look at that. We create a system, and we look at the skill learning opportunity as well as experience opportunity. We get the people in through various routes, okay? Depends on where they want to go. And that is what basically training, on-the-job training. This is called place and then train. Find the job, then I train you accordingly. What we did is that we have corporate to tell me what they need in terms of cost. Then I look for the people based on their profile, psychometric profile as well as capability profile. Then I go inside, I train them. Curriculum are very special. 3 months for full stack, 3 months for AI, 3 months for big data, etc. And then after that, they're being placed inside down there. Government subsidized part of the cost fee to start. Now there's no need, people will pay for the cost themselves. And so, with that, I change. I become number 1 in Thailand. I fit it. I fit it one at a time. This is how the ecosystem is changed. We make a lot of false start. We change a lot of things, and eventually this is changed. So in order for accelerate ecosystem, I'm just going to quickly do a quick summary. Number 1, you need the talent. The talent must be on the right job. So I will show you just how to do it. And then you do a pre-acceleration. You work with corporate to define a problem. Problem is always most important. And then you accelerate. This is the one that you get the most profit because it's a steeper curve. And then after you continue incubating them. There's a method. Now, don't get too hung up about acceleration or incubation. We can call it any other name. But you know that the very first step down here is that you look for the problem and then address the problem. If the problem nobody want to solve, it's not the problem. Then immediately, we know that who are the people in the ecosystem to work with. These are the 4 of them. The same as what KMUTT has presented. Entrepreneurs appear to be in the center, but entrepreneurs don't work alone. So accelerator work with them. The risk capital, the investor is actually the least important. Why do I say that it's least important? Because that investor always look for the best startups. The best startup don't need investor because they have customer. So that is what the catch is. So very important is that work with the university to take the technology, work with the corporate for the customer, infrastructure, and the market. And then, as a government, that is the most headache portion of it. Government, very difficult to change. But customer need to change in order to help all these things to go, especially regulation. So Thailand want to develop your fintech industry. Fintech industry, you have a lot of rules. The question is that either the startup find a way to skirt around it, or startup make regulator irrelevant. So what we did is we drag our regulator, MAS, Monetary Authority of Singapore, into an accelerator. And ask them and say, look, can you mentor the startups? It is very difficult. They just simply don't want. I am a regulator. Why would I want to talk to the startup? So what we did is that if you don't, they will build things that make you irrelevant. It's up to you. Grudgingly, they come in, they learn about it, they realize that there is a clear and present danger. They begin to be embracing it. So Singapore built ourselves, become a fintech hub. We run the fintech festival last year, November. That is a change. It's a long journey, and it's not an easy journey. So a quick summary of what we have learned. The very first thing is that, number 1, we need to build innovation-driven company, not a system integrator. System integrator create job, but not necessarily a good job. And the next one, you don't do transplant. You can bring the company in, try to bring them in the early stage, because that transplant is just nothing but a multinational company. It doesn't help with the ecosystem. The third is that do the acceleration first, focus on the market, then you incubate them. They have a much higher chance of success. Then we can build an ecosystem together. We are focusing on helping the company going overseas. So this is basically the rule that we start, okay, from zero to hero. And over the 3 years, that's what we did. And now we are focusing on building something bigger, much bigger, together with the whole ecosystem, especially in Thailand. That's the reason why I'm here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alex Lin. You deserve this stage as well, and I'm sure there's many startups and entrepreneurs here would like to work together with you, enjoy the partnership with SGInnovate. ทุกท่านได้ติดตามกัน